Hi, Assalamu alaikum. Let's do some practice problems on lists in Python. Let's see the first question. Find the sum, average, and max, and minimum of the values in the data list. So let's start with the sum. I know you can say S is equal sum to data, and this is fine. But for introductory courses, we prefer that students create their own code for such functions. So there is actually sum and minimum and maximum, but let's do it our own. So now let's say sum is equal to 0, and we will go for item in data. This is our loop. And we'll say sum plus equal data. That's it. So we now know the sum. What about max and minimum? Let's say max is equal to float minus infinity, and minimum is equal to float infinity. And these have been already explained. So now I'll use the same loop, and here I will say if max is less than item, here it should be item, and here I would say max is less than item, then max is equal to item. I would also do if minimum is greater than item, then minimum is equal to item. And that's it. At the end of the loop, you know max, minimum, and sum. We also need average. So average is equal sum over the length of data. And this is going to be our average. Sum over length of data. So now I'll just print the results. Print sum, max, minimum, and AVG. And let's see the output. Run. So 277 is max, or sum. Max is 90, which is correct. Minimum is minus 10, and the average is this much. So we just go from first to last element. No need for index here. We are not making any changes to the list. We calculate the sum. We compare the item with max and minimum, and we do the changes if it's needed. And finally, after we finish everything, we calculate the average and print the results. Let's see question 2. Copy the data list in a data C list. And remember, this question is data. List needs to be copied, and this is the question, copied. You cannot say in Python data C is equal data, and you cannot call this a copy. This is not a copy. This is just what? Two names for one list. There will only be one list. If you want to copy the list, there are multiple ways how to do this. One of them, which is very simple, is you create an empty list in the beginning, then you say plus data. This is going to create a copy. Now if I print data C is a copy of data. However, if you don't give something like this, it will not be a copy, and no new list is going to be created. So this is one way of copying the list. The other way, let me here create data C2, another list, is to copy the elements of data one by one into data C. So I can say for element in data C2 dot append element. So this way I am appending all the elements of the data in data C2. So this is the first way how to do a copy, and this is the second way, which is doing what? A loop. If you don't need to check items or copy certain values, no need for the second one, because this is gonna make a copy. So let's make sure it's copy now. I will print all of the items, data C2, and first let us make sure, yes, it's copy. But how do I know it's a copy? Let us make changes. I will say data 0 is equal 99, data C 10 is equal to 33, and data C20 is equal to 55. Now I need to print all the lists to show you that the lists have changed, but each has its own items, its own values, its own spaces. Data C, and finally print data C2. And now let's look at the output. Here you see the first item changed, only the first item in the data, the first item in data C, the first item in data C2, because that was a copy. If it's not a copy, like this, look now here, data C is equal to data. This is not a copy. So data and data C actually will all be pointing to this list in memory. So if you change in data or change in data C, actually these are just two different names for one thing. Look at the output now. Look for data and data C here. What do you see? Because this is not a copy, this is just a reference. So remember, if it's a copy, you just need to create an empty set or use this loop. Next question. Find the second largest element in a list. So we're looking not for the largest, for the second largest. And by the way, there are so many ways how to solve this, and so many tricks also. Well, let's see them one by one. I can say data.sort. This way I am sorting the data ascending order. If you want to see this, let me print the data here. Now, do you see the list sorted in an ascending order? So where is the second largest now? Actually, the second largest is going to be print data -2. And you know, -2 is going to be not the last element, but the second to last element. And let us see the output now here. They say 80, which is correct, because 80 is less than 90 after sorting the list, so I just know which element to get. And this very simple way, using sort, then you get the element before the last one. Let's make sure it's working fine. I'll make this 85, and now the second largest is actually 85, and here we see the result. So this is one way of solving the problem. There are other ways also how to solve the problem. Yani you can find the largest and find the item that is large, but not as large as the largest. So if we want to find the largest, so here we can say largest, or find the function. However, we find the item that's greater than all other items except what? Except the largest. And this is going to be the second largest, and no need to do it in this example. Write a program to reverse the list. Well, there is so many ways how to reserve the list. Reversing is not sorting. Reversing is the first element is going to be the last, and the last is going to be the first. And by the way, this is going to be also simple depending on which way you want to do it. Our list is equal to I can say now here data and nothing minus 1. So what do you think our list is going to be? Brent, our list. Is it going to be a reversed list? This is using what? Slicing. Look at it. So this is how to get a list reversed using what? Slicing. So this is using what? Slicing. Tamam. Very simple. This is how to get. Even strings can work like this. You can reverse the string because string is a sequence also. And look at the items, you will find them reversed. Type. Now I need to do it in another way using loops. So now see what I created here. I created another list called RL, and the list is what? Empty. Now I'll do it using while loop. I will start from the end. Take this item 5, add it to RL. Then go to 4, add it to RL. So I'm going to append them in a reverse order to RL. So this way I'm using a loop to reverse it. So let us say here, I, which is index, I need to start from the end. So it's going to be equal len of data minus 1. Remember, len of data is 6, but the last index is going to be 5. And you should know this by now. Now I can say while I is greater than or equal to 0, while I is greater than 0, and remember, I now is going to be 6 or 7, I really don't know, but it's going to be the index of this element, 5. I need to append it to which list? This empty list. So I can say rl.append data I. Remember, this is the index, it's not the item. And now I would say I is equal or I minus equal 1. I will decrement I. So now I will go to the element 4. It's greater than 0. It will append 4. It will append 80 minus 10, and that's it. So now I'll print RL, which is a second list, using the while loop here. And I see a problem here. What's the problem? The problem is last element has not been added. I did this intentionally. I said while I is greater than 0. While I is greater than 0, the last element index, which is minus 1 or whatever element here, is not going to be really added to the list. So now let us just say greater than or equal to 0, because I need element number what? 0. Let us run this now here. So look at it now. The list, this is the original list, and look at the output. It's 5, 4, 80 minus 10. It's totally a reverse order. So how to reverse a list or even a string using slicing is very simple. Start to end reverse order. Or you can use a loop, any loop. It can be for loop also. You can go reverse order. You start from the last one and you keep adding them to the new list until you reach the first element. And here we did it. Our index I here was the length of data minus 1, which is the last element. Then I started appending them and decrementing the index until I reach the first element. So this is how to use Python to reverse a list using 2 different ways. Copy the items of the data list in a reverse order. In which list data are. I just finished this, by the way. I can go to this question and I will use this loop. And first I say data R is equal to empty list. Now this loop, if you agree now, this loop will take me to where? Will take me to the end. And now I can say data R, which is a new list now, data r dot append data I. Data I, this is data r, and this is append. This is, let me just modify it. Oh, by the way, that's it. So I is equal I minus 1. And now I'll just print data r, and we need to make sure it's in a reverse order. I believe it's in a reverse order, and this question has been given almost twice, but one of them in a reverse order without using the slicing. Next question is, create a function named countValues that takes two parameters, a list and a value. The function returns the number of times a value exists in the list. So how many times a certain value or a specific value is in the list. So let's just do the function now. Def, the function name is countValues, and it takes a list, and avoid using the list. I'll just give it any name and value here. So now how are you going to call the function? You're going to send the list with a certain value. And let us see here. Let's say count is equal to, of course, this function need to return an integer. So I say countValues, I will send data, and let us say 1. And here I am adding 3 ones to the list. And finally, print count. So let's do the logic inside the function. Here, I'll say count is equal to 0. And now, khalas, for item in data, if what? I know they are all integers, right? If item equal value, then count plus equal 1. That's it. Bas khalas. So now, I go item by item, and if the item matches the value, I will increment what? The counter. And here I return, my function need to return the value of count. Well, that's it. Now, the number 1 should be available 3 times, which is correct here. Let us call it with another value, 66. It should be 0. And now let us call it with 1 again, after changing the 1 to be 5 times. And I get here, I'll call it with 1. So number 1 is available 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, this is minus 1. If I make it 1, I get 5. This is how to count number of values. There might be functions in Python that calculate this automatically, built-in functions, tamam? So here if I say C is equal list, which is data dot count 1, and this is print C, and let me show you that you get 5. So this function, our function, did it. And you are, as a computer science students, you need to learn these, how they are done. Actually, this function, if you go and visit it, you will see that the function actually is using a code that's very similar to your code. So we know there is a data count. It returns what? The number of times a certain value is available in the list. However, we need also to know how to write code for these basic things. So I showed you here the count, and also I showed you how to create a function to search for a certain value in the list, increment the counter if they match, and return the value. Here we have an interesting question. We have list 1 and list 2. They want us to create a list of the common values between list 1 and list 2. Common means exists in both of them. And by the way, this is not a tough question. You go item by item in list 1, and you check if the value is in the second list. Let us create first common and this is common is an empty list. See how we're going to do it. For item in list 1. So this is going to go item by item in list 1. Now you ask, is this item available in list 2? If item in list 2, very simple question, خلاص done. So now I would say common dot append item. So if you look at it, for each item in list 1, if the item is available in list 2, then what? Then add it. And is this all? Let us see if this is the end of it. I will print what? Common. And let's look at the output. 4 and 5. So here we have 4 and 5. Good? Only the common. If it's the common, no need to make 2 loops. 1 loop is enough. If it's common, if it's difference, maybe you need to do 2 loops. Okay. But with common, you just check 1 and check if they are common. Let us just add 3. I will add 3 to the second list. So the common list should be 3, 4, 5, and I believe it's working now. So we go item by item in the first list and check if the item is in list. You can ask this question in so many different ways, but it's all what? Depending on what? Using in and not in. The question also says, sort the new list in both ascending and descending orders. So let us sort common in ascending order. So here I can say common dot sort and print common. طبعا I can create a copy of it, but now let us see that common is available in ascending order. So now here I will just output this, and now you discover that our algorithm was not really perfect. Look here now, why I added 3. 3 is available twice in list 1. But actually, if you apply mathematics, it should only be available 1 in the common. So what's missing now? You need to add it only once to what? Common. طيب, here 3 was added, but next time no need to add 3 to common because it's already there. So now here I can add one more thing, and item not in common. So now if the item in list 2 but not already added, so here the intersection of list 1 and 2, the item that is available in both of them will only be added once to the common. Let us see the output. Let me first clear some space here and run. And look now, it's only added what? Once. Good. Type. Now, how to sort it? Here is a sorted. How to sort a list in a reverse order? Common.sort. And you can say now what? Reverse is equal to what? True. This is one way, by the way, of doing it. There are so many other ways. And print common. So reverse is equal to true. And now you will see the list sorted in a reverse order. See here? 3, 4, 5, and now it has been reserved. So sort reverse is equal to true. Make sure you know why we did item not in common, because I don't want the duplicate items in common. Next question, replace all elements in list 1 with their square roots. And this is a simple thing, but this time you need to use the index since you are changing the elements of the list. And you need to use the square root of in the math function. So let's see this. For I in range, now I need to use this len of list 1. So this way I'm going to go from index 1, 2, 3, whatever. Now, I would say list 1 I is equal to, we are changing one element at a time, math dot math, and in Python, if your math is not working, you need to import what here? Import math, and now math is available. Okay, so now I need the square root, or even without using the math, you can say list I, list I star 0.5. This is a square root. If you use a math function, okay, you say math dot sqrt of list I. So now each item in the list 1 will be replaced by its square root. Let us print the list outside the loop, print list 1, and most probably you're going to see the solution working properly. And here math sqrt must be a real number, not types. Let us say here sqrt list I really don't see this a problem. List I is a value, must be a real number, so it does not take math I is equal to, okay, not types, generic alias. Let me see, type error. So this one takes integers, huh? Let me just say here, oh, list 1, sorry, because that's why list 1 is not list. List is a function, by the way. List 1 is a list, huh? So now it works here, and I don't see the square root. Is it? I really don't see the square root. So list 1 for item in len math square root is equal to square root dot list 1 and print list. Let us run it again. We still don't see what? Any solution. Nothing is working. Let me just make sure and save it and run it here. Nothing. So there is a problem here. So what's the problem? I just discovered what's the problem here. What I'm doing, I'm saying equal, and this is wrong. Equal is going to be true, false. Equal is not assignment. You are not giving a value of the right side to the item in the left side. You are just checking equality. So now here, now I believe the item list 1 assigned the value on the right side. So that was just a mistake, not intentional. So now here are the square roots of the values of the elements in list 1 stored in the list again. Whenever you want to change individual items in a list, you need to go for I in range and use the index. Now the question says, flatten the nested list. So what's flatten? Flatten يعني make it مسطحة. يعني make it one dimensional. This is a two-dimensional list. So it means instead of having two lists or nested list like this or 2D list, just make it a list of all the items. And this is, by the way, it's very simple. But you need to know how to go item by item in a nested list. So here I will create an empty list, call it flat. Tamam. Now I will just go item by item in the nested list. So for row in nested list, and now for column in row, which is fine. So for row and nested list, this is the first row, item by item. The nested list contains lists. So first row is going to be 1, 2, 3. For column and row, it will go 1, 2, 3. بس خلاص. Now I will say flat dot append what? Append column, which is the item. I use row column here when I work with 2D. I believe it's better for your imagination. And now print flat. Let us see if this is going to work. Look at it. All the items in a one-dimensional lists. يعني it doesn't matter how many items you have here. See, I'm adding items randomly. Okay. And what's here? What's the problem? I don't see a problem here. There is an empty. And now run. So now this is how to flatten a 2D list in 1D. Go row by row, column by column. No need to use indexes here because I'm not making any changes to the list. I'm not making any changes. Otherwise, you need to say for I in range len of nested list and for j in range len of nested list I, and then try to find the individual elements and make whatever changes you want. But here I'm using for item in a list and for item in a nested list and for each item in the individual list. And that's how I got the list flattened. Now let's do some 2D lists functionalities like maximum, minimum, whatever. Find and print the largest number in the nested list. This is just a number. Which one is the largest? So I would say easily largest is equals to float minus infinity. Hopefully this is clear. And that's it. Then I go item by item or row by row. I can say for row in nested list, for column in row. If column is greater than largest, then largest is equal to column. That's it. So at the end, I would say print, and here I'm going to say largest. Let us test this code. So 99 is the largest. Let us just change it. Now it's going to be 546, and here 546 is the largest. Done with the first question. Now the second question, find and print the average of each list. يعني we need to find the average of each list. The average of each list will make the sum of the items in the list. Before we go to the next list, we divide the sum by the length of the list and then reset our totals. So here I would say for row, I will use simple code. Yeah. For row in nested list, I prefer to do it in 2 loops or even 3 loops here, just to be not to make spaghetti coding. Now I would say sum is equal to 0 before I start the calculations. Now for column, I'm not going to use function in row. And then for column in row. So first thing, this is our row. Then it will go column by column, 1, 2, 3. Then I would say sum plus equal column. By the end of this loop, I am done with the first list. So now it's the time to find the average. Does that make sense? So here I would say average is equal sum over len of row. And row here is going to be the first list. When you come back to the second list here, you come back to line 11. Sum will be again reset to 0. All items will be summed and then the average, and same thing for all of them. So here I will print average 1 by 1. So this is the sum and plus AVG. So let's see this now. There is a problem here, and I think I'm not writing a Python code. Here is Python code. Good. So now average of the first list is 2, which is correct. And I believe it's correct now. So now we did calculate the average of each list. We did calculate the average of each list in this loop. Reset sum to 0. Do the average for the list. Before you go to the next one, calculate the average and print it. If you want to have the averages in a separate list, that's fine. Right. Now, find the index of the list of the largest total. يعني let us say now the largest total in index 0. We need the index of the list. Or if the largest total in index 2, we need the index of the list of the largest total. So here I clearly need sum. But here I would say largest index is equal to, I don't know if I'm going to say 0. I can say 0. Good. But actually I don't know the sum or the total of the first list. So let us think a bit. Can I say -1 here because I still have nothing? And here I would say max total. This is the value is equal also what? 0. To be safe here, you can use float minus infinity. So now why I need largest index and I need the total itself? Because I will be calculating the total of the list. If the total is larger than the max total, I need the index of the list. But now let's look at this. There is one problem here with the previous code. Here, I really don't know the index of the list. I know I can provide a counter. يعني here I can provide a counter and see what's the counter. But row here does not tell you the index of the item. I will just do it intentionally. I want to do it using the other for loop to show you how to work with the here. Then I will say for row in range len of nested list. Then row will be 0, 1, 2. Good. Row will be row 0, 1, 2. Then what should I do? For column in range, remember here I'm len of row. Here I'm using indexes. Now I need to check. I need to find the sum. Now here, let us say the sum. I would say sum is equal to 0 before I go to the row here. And now sum plus equal what? Sum plus equal nested list and row column 2D. يعني first time it's gonna be 0, 0, then 0, 1, then 0, 2. When you go to the second list, it will be 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, whatever. Now I have the sum of the items in the list. Now I need to compare it to what? I need to compare it to the current max. I would say here, if max is greater than max total, then what to do? If max is greater than max total, remember you still need to say max total is equal to max, because next time you need to compare it, and now you need to set the index. Largest index is equal to row. Remember, row will be, in this example, 0 for this list, and here 1, and here 2. So what we need, we need the index of the largest list. And to keep the index, we also need to compare the max total or the total, because we need to compare it with the previous lists. So now I would say here, list index, and here I would say largest index, and comma, has the largest total, which is what here? Max total, I believe I called it. So now let us see the code, the output here. Run. We have an error. For column on range, okay, object of type has no len. Oh, sorry, here we made a mistake. Here, len of nested list, and here I need the length of the row. So for the second column, it will be nested list row. صح؟ row is gonna be 0, صح؟ Len of what? Nested list of row. So row 0, what is the length of row 0? تمام, is 3. So nested list 0 is this list. Len of nested list 0 is going to be the length of the list. So let's do this now. What's here? If max greater than total, a greater than not supported. So now let us see what we did here. If max, what is max here? Oh, here I need to say if sum. I did not define max, صح? I need to say sum. Also here, run. Again, list index. So I usually make errors with on the printing. I'm not يعني concerned about this output. Let us see here. Largest index is 2, which is the last one here. طيب. Now I'm gonna just make it not the largest index. So now you see the values are smaller, maybe the first or the second. So it's gonna be either 0 or 1. It is 0. And now let me make this small also. Now the largest is gonna be 1. Does that make sense? So when working with 2D lists, you need to be careful. You need to know where are you and which item. Are you going index of rows and columns? Are you going element by element? Hopefully in these examples, I showed you all the ways, all the different ways, how to traverse. Traverse means how to go from first to the end with a nested list. I intentionally did this here to go row by row because I needed the index. I could have done it without an index, but I wanted to see how you use the 2D indexes here, row column, and how also to use this here. If you are making changes to the list, you must use this for loop. The question now says, reverse the data list without using reverse or slicing. I believe I did this before using both, maybe reverse and slicing. And maybe in this question here, or yeah, here. I did it with I did it with slicing. Let us see how to do it. Remember, reverse. Element 5 should go to element 1 and 1 go to 5. 4 should be here in -2 and -2 go to 5. Imagine if you have 2 fingers and you are moving the elements from the last to the beginning at the same time. Imagine this. So how are we going to solve this? You need to understand the algorithm. We will have 2 pointers. One pointer is left and the other is what? Right. We will start with left equals the first element and right equals the last element. Then we will swap them. يعني راح نبدلهم. بس خلاص. So now, let me say left is equal to 0, and this is clear. Right is equal to len of data, طول الليست minus 1, which is 5, 6, I don't know. Now, when do you stop actually? Let me just change some values here. When do you stop actually? You will stop while what? While left is not equal to right. يعني while left is less than right. Look at this. While left is less than right. ما هو لما نوصل بالنص خلاص بيكونوا كلها تبدلت. Imagine the 2 fingers again. You replace, you swap 1, 5, -2, 4, 10, 33, 12 and 45 وخلاص. 12 and 1, sorry. تمام. So let us see this now. Now, data right, which is the last element, must go to data left, which is the first element. Can you imagine this? If you cannot, close your eyes and try to imagine it. Data right, which is 5, should be given to what? Data left. And data left, which is 1, should be given to data right. So how can we do this? Can I say here data right is equal to data left? But there is a problem here. The problem here, if you say this data left is equal to data right, if you do it in 2 steps, data right here, after you finish the first step, data right is equal to data left. يعني 5 is going to be equal to 1. Here, the result will be this is going to be equal to 1. However, now if you want to switch 1 to 5, remember, you have lost what? You have lost 5. So you need to keep 5 somehow, somewhere in the middle. يعني you need to keep it in a place. You remember temporary variable. I can say this. Temp is equal data right. So now, and I can say data left is equal to temp. This way, I would not be losing this value 5 because I'm storing this every time to temp. طيب, we are done with the first element. Now, the left, we need to move one more step, and the right, they need to move one step back. So now, left plus equal 1, right minus equal 1. Do you get this? Now, after you are done with the first and last element here, then you change your left, it will be 1, and you change your right, it will be minus 2. Here, this value. Minus 2 means the second to last. Oh, by the way, بس خلاص. So now, we are reversing the list without using what? A print data. Let us see how this is going to work. Perfect. I believe it worked perfectly. If you want, I will show you what is happening every time. So I will print data with every time we do changes. I want you to see what happens step by step. And maybe to do this, really, I need to minimize the number of elements in the list. Look at this. This is the first thing. لا في شيء غلط here صح? A print. Okay, something happened here. What is it? Okay. Yeah, it's right here. Here now, the 1 is here and 5 is here. Look at it. So 1 بالأخير and 5 in the beginning. Minus 2, look. Minus 2 is still what? Here and 4 here. Look at the next round. Minus 2 راحت محل ال 4 and 4 came محل المين. Now 33 و10 تبدلوا وهكذا. That's it. هلا, these 3 steps are necessary. However, in Python, if you don't want to use this, there is one way how to do it, by the way. In one step, without using temp in Python. Maybe we don't teach this syntax احنا, بس يعني let us see this. You can in Python assign 2 values in one statement. شوفوا معي. You can say data right or data left, and here comma data right. What is this? This one means what? Without using, and in one step, data right will be equal to what? Data left. And data left, 2 things. You are assigning the 2 values in one statement. يعني data right will be given the first one after the equal sign. Data left will be given the second one after the equal sign. Let us see the final output. Sorry, here. Let us see the final output. I'm not going to print it in the middle here. Okay, run. So this is the final output. I believe it's correct. So I will keep both codes here. This is one way of doing it. Okay, or you can use the classic way of using temporary variable here in the middle and keep the value, or you can use Python modern expressions. Both of them work right. You just need to understand why we do temp and why when we use the syntax I just gave you, no need to do temp because Python behind the scenes is gonna do a temp for you. So this is how we can reverse the list without using reverse or what? Slicing. And this is, by the way, very important. This is an important algorithm. You will need it at least 1 million more times during your lifetime as a programmer because you need to go how to go to the list from both sides and keep going until you meet in the middle and then you stop. Let's here create a list of prime numbers between 1 and 100. And the easiest way to do this is create a function to know if a number is prime or not. So def is prime, and here n. And I believe I don't need to. Prime is equal to true. Then I go for I in range, and here I go n, and if n modulus, we are not explaining the algorithm here, is equal 0, then I would say return false. Okay, else, and outside the loop, because return here will break, so no need to break. If it's a function, no need to break, because return will break the function. Otherwise, if it doesn't return inside the function for prime numbers, it's not going to do that. So here I would say return prime. So this is our function. Now I will say primes, which is a list that is equal to empty list. Now I will do a loop for I in range 1 to 101. If the number is prime, I will append it to the list, primes. So I will call the function if is prime I. So if is prime, it means if the function returns true, then you say primes dot append I, and that's it. The question is done now. Here I call the function for values from 1 and to 100. If it returns it true, I append it to the list. So now my list contains value between 1 and 100. We did this question before using just loops without using list, but now let us see if the value is correct. Run here. So, okay, let's see what's wrong. Is prime I, and let us see here. Deficient is prime R. I didn't really read the error, so let me read the error. If n modulus I equal 0, let us see, in line 5 is prime. 0 division, okay, so 0 division here because it will start from 0. So let me go and see what is the question here, because something, so for I in range 2 to n, we forgot this, because you cannot divide by any value less than 2. You will start from 2 to n minus 1. So that was my problem here. It was dividing by 0. Now there is no division by 0 because you start from 2, and hopefully it works here. These are the prime numbers between 1 and 100. I believe the solution is right. However, the concept is the most important thing. You call a function. If you get true, you append it to the list. If you do not, if you get false, nothing is going to happen. And here the function returns false. If it's a function, again, no need to do break here, because the function, if you use return inside the function, it will break. But if you are using loops and you decided that you need to come out of the loop, you need to use break. Yani you set prime to false and then you break out of the loop. Now let's write a Python program to check if two lists are equal. In this example here, we say two lists are equal if they contain the same elements regardless of their order. It doesn't matter where the element is, but we both have the same elements. Like here, I'll say D1 is equal to some values and D2 is equal to other values. So now they are not equal, and we will just check this. Tamam. So for two lists to be equal, first they both must be of the same length and same elements, but we don't care about the order of elements. This is going to make the question easy. By the way, I can make a function here. So here I say are equal, are lists equal. See the name. Do not save time. I would say L1 and L2 here. So the name of the list is clear now. I'm going to call this list. So this list is going to return true or false if the lists are equal. Again, two lists are equal if they contain the same elements regardless of what? their order. So let us see now here. First of all, if len of L1 is not equal to len of what? L2, then return false. Easy, صح? This is easy because خلاص they are not of the same length. But if they are of the same length, we need to make sure that they have the same elements and no other elements. Yani both should have the same elements. And by the way, there are so many ways how to do this. There are so many ways. I cannot cover all the algorithms in this tutorial, but let us say now here, I will say L1 dot sort. So I'm sorting the list L1 and I am sorting the list L2. Once you sort the lists, the order of elements, if they are equal, will change. Do you get this? The order of elements will change. And if you sort this, this value will go to the end here. And the smaller values will go. So now here, I would say else now. Else, I sort them. And now I can go to what? I can say equals again what? True. Now I can say for item in what? L1, if item in L2, but I need now I can check the order. So I can say for I in range, because both are the same, len of L1, because both have the same length now, if L1i is equal to L2i is not equal to, خلينا نحكي L2i, يعني if at any moment they are not equal, if any two elements are not equal, what to do? Return false. بس return false. خلاص, two elements that are not equal, then the lists are what? Not equal. If you come outside the loop and you did not return false, it means that the lists are equal because this one has never been true. So you did not return false. It means that now you can return equal. Equal is by default is true. Very similar to the technique we used what? We used in what? In the functions when we return a value and we assume something is true or false. So now, if they are not of the same length, return false. Else, sort them. By sorting them, you don't care about the order. You know why? Because if you sort them and they are in two different orders, once they are sorted, they will be in the same order. Then now you can compare item by item. Of course, there are many other ways how to do it. Now let us say print here. I will call the function r what? Lists equal. I will send D1 and D2 to the function. This should be either true or false. And clearly I am going to get false here. Hopefully no errors, false. Now let me see what I'm going to do. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here. And now here I'm going to say 5, 3, 2, 1, 4. Now, I think it's clear that the lists are equal because they have the same number of elements and the same elements regardless of what? Their order. خلينا أحط الخمسة هون. Let me change 5. So even both lists are not sorted, but they have what? The same length and the same elements. So now if I call the function will receive the two lists. Length is not equal to length? No. They are equal. So it will go to what? Else. It will sort list 1 and sort list 2. Remember, if they sort list 1 and list 2, and now I'm going to say equal is equal to true. ولا مرة راح يزبط معه إنه L1i is not equal because they are all equal. So this false will be skipped. So the loop finally comes to this message and it will return equal. Run. Excellent. So now here, we assumed we assumed our algorithm. يعني we said two lists are equal if they contain same elements regardless of what? Of their order. Sorting here helped us a lot. Otherwise, you need to check the element is only available once. And you can do it, by the way. You can say for element in L1, if element in L2, or element not in L2. Yani, you don't have to, but this is much easier and easier. The algorithm is easier to even visualize because خلاص, both lists are what? Sorted. وهلا يعني let me just do this here. I'll print L1I, comma, L2I. So you see the elements here after sorting. Now you see the elements also. So now here, run. So 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, and that's why we get what? True. Let me just change this to 6. And run. And look here, 1, 2. خلاص. 2 elements are not equal. Then على طول the algorithm is gonna return what? False. The algorithm even is not gonna continue because خلاص 2 elements are not equal. So now our question is to find if a list is a palindrome. What is a palindrome? If you have the same elements or it reads the same from left to right. For example, this is a list. D is equal 1, 2, 3. Then you have 3, 2, 1. Look at this list. If you look at it from left to right or right to left, you're going to get the same order. So the question is, we need to create a function to know if a list is what? Is a list is palindrome. So now the function needs to return true or false. So let us define the function. Is palindrome here. And I'm going to say L or list. And by the way, you can solve this problem in so many different ways. And if you recall, before I call the function here, I will just do simple thing. You see here, I'm getting an error below D because the function is empty. If you want the compiler or interpreter to ignore this, just type pass. If you are testing something, just type pass. Pass yani ignore it. So now, before I call the function, I will show you something. I will show you D, then I'll use slicing, -1, and I will show you print D. This slicing will do the list in a reverse order. We have covered this. And the output should be the same. By the way, this is reversed. Yani to know it's reversed, I will change this to 10 and this is to 20. And now you tell me if it's reversed or not. Look at this. This is the reversed string. And this list, sorry. And this is the original list. So now how to know if a list is palindrome? Simply compare both of them. So here I would say if L equal L empty -1 and maybe this one is gonna be what? What do I need to return? I would say return true. Else what? Return false. So now here let us see now what's gonna happen. This is a list. And we'll call the function. The function will compare the original list with the reversed list. If it's the same, then it's a palindrome. And now let us just call the function print is palindrome, and I will send the list D. Now it's not palindrome. I believe we're gonna get false because we don't get a palindrome here because it's high. Now let me just do this 10 and 1 and look at it now. From left to right or right to left, they are equal. Let us see what happens. Now I get what? True, because both are the same. Same values, same order, because the list is again palindrome. Palindromes from left to right or right to left is going to be the same. So I used a very simple trick using slicing. طبعا هلا someone would ask, okay, what if I cannot use slicing? I need to use the algorithm. تمام. You go and compare from beginning to end. which is what? You need to use the loop. Remember the while loop? You start with one from the end and the other one from beginning. يعني here I would, since this is the last question, I will create another function. And here I will say is palindrome loop. Good? يعني another function. And in this function I would do what? I would do the comparison using loops. So let me say here left is equal 0, and right again is equal to len of L, which is a list, minus 1. So now we know what is left and what is right. So now we need to do some kind of a loop. And in this loop is going to be while what? Left is less than right. And this is the loop. If L left, which is going to be the first element, if L left is equal L right, which is the last element, if it's not equal, صح? If it's not equal, then I would say return false. خلاص, one of them is not equal. Return false. And you need to say left plus equal 1 and right minus equal 1. So you go forward and what? Backward. If you come out of the loop and you did not return false, simply because all the elements are the same left to right, so you need to return true here. You can create a variable or just return true. I'm not sure if this is correct 100%, but let us test it now. So now I will call the second function here is palindrome loop. So let us see if this is going to work. We get true, perfect. Let us make a change here, and this is going to be 20. False. Does that make sense? So here, I just use a quick trick here. In the last solution, I use a quick trick, go here. I use a quick, which is what? Slicing. And reversing using what? Slicing. And خلاص, على طول, one step. If you need to understand how things work in loops, start from the left and right, and then compare the leftmost element with the rightmost element. Then increment the leftmost and decrement the rightmost. Compare again and again. If one of them is not equal, خلاص, stop and return what? False. If you come out of the while loop without returning false, simply because all the elements were true.